Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Musings with Musa. I hope this finds you safe and well in these tiring times, and I'm really glad you could be here today. Since I got my COVID vaccination done just a day or two ago, and I'm still sort of recovering, I think let's just keep this one a little short. But before I get into the main content of the video, I think I'd like to make two quick announcements. Firstly, if you're a student in Pakistan, particularly Lahore, Karachi, or Islamabad, you can get your COVID vaccinations done today. It's a walk-in policy. You don't need to get registered beforehand. All you need is to take your ID card and your student card with you, and the process should take only about 40 to 60 minutes. So I really urge you to get your vaccinations done as soon as possible. Secondly, and this is just regarding my own channel, I did a poll on my Instagram a few days ago asking you guys what kind of videos you would prefer the most. I found out that there's a slight preference towards videos focused on books rather than videos focused on music, but since the difference was only marginal, I'll try my best to make sure that the upcoming videos are balanced between those regarding books and those regarding music. So I've had a few videos regarding books, and probably the next few ones might be about music. I also found out that the average preferred watch time is about 10 to 12 minutes, plus minus 3 to 4 minutes. I'll try my best to make sure that the upcoming videos are somewhere around that runtime. Alright, so getting back to the topic of the video, right? So around 2-ish years ago, when I first started, reading regularly again, I realized that there are certain tips and certain habits which I can keep in mind, and these will help me improve as a reader, and these have helped me, read faster, read more frequently, and read more consistently over the past 2 years. Of course, I'm not really an expert, but in any case, these are 5 tips which have helped me, and I hope that they can help you guys to some extent as well. Now, most of us have a habit of pulling out our phones when we're in public, if we're waiting for a friend, if we're waiting for our food, if we're going somewhere in a car or a bus. But I think, to break that habit and to ensure that we can read as much as possible, it's always a good idea to carry a book with you. Now, in this modern day and age, it's often difficult to, take out like an hour or two every day just to read. Not all of us have the privilege of being able to do that. But most of us in our daily commute, we do get these 10 to 15 minutes of short bursts where, when we're traveling or if we're waiting for someone, we can just take out our book and read instead. But it's important to keep in mind that this doesn't work for all kinds of books, right? For example, certain heavy philosophical texts or books on, let's say, economic or social theory are often very difficult to read in short bursts, right? You can't just, take them out, read like 2 lines and then get back to them later, because there's often a sense of continuity, which is important. But for most works of fiction, for most works of lighter nonfiction, and for a lot of works of poetry, this kind of reading in shorter bursts might be really, really helpful, because these 5 to 10 to 15 minutes often add up into those 1 to 2 hours, which otherwise we might just need to set aside, and which is often impossible to set aside. It's important to keep in mind that you should be reading the kinds of books which you're emotionally and mentally ready for doing so. Now, this means that you should refrain from reading emotionally taxing books when you're going through a difficult time in your life, and you should refrain from reading mentally taxing books when you're going through a particularly stressful part in your life where you have a heavy workload or you're dealing with a lot of projects at the same time. So, this can be during exam season, this can be when you have multiple tasks lined up. It's important to keep in mind that it's okay to leave a heavier work for later and pick up a lighter book, and then just, come back to that heavier work whenever you can, whenever it's easier for you to do so. Now, the significance of this isn't just that, you'll end up reading a lot slower, or you might not have as much fun reading. Obviously, that's true, but it can also have long-term repercussions in your own interest in reading itself. Often what can happen is that you might just be put off from developing a reading habit, or you might just be put off by that specific genre as a whole. Now, this is a really good tip, but it's important to keep in mind the kind of books that you're reading. And if you do this properly, it can help you get through books faster because you break the monotony of reading a single book, and especially if that single book is particularly slow or it's a little boring. Now, the way to do it is to make sure that each of the books which you're reading, and preferably these should be 2 to 3, I wouldn't recommend more than that, they should all be thematically and stylistically different from each other. Now, generally, some good pairings are fiction and non-fiction, poetry and philosophy, and even if you're the kind of person who generally just sticks to fiction, then make sure that you're reading different genres, right? Like, it's okay to read, let's say, Frank Herbert's Dune and Wuthering Heights, but I wouldn't recommend reading Wuthering Heights and let's say Pride and Prejudice, because you might get the storylines or you might get some of the characters mixed up. So just like keep a few things in mind, and if you can, then this is a really helpful tip. Now, this is based on my philosophy for reading, which is that the reason why reading is such a good habit is because you're always going to gain something from it. Whether it's the simple pleasure of getting through XYZ book, or it's some sort of important life lesson, or even just, some interesting tidbits of information. And that's why I don't particularly believe in that idea of, just reading for the sake of reading and trying to get through, let's say, like 30 or 50 or 80 or 100 books a year just so you can have those bragging rights. In fact, it's much more important to gain something from each of the books that you're reading, and more importantly than just reading fast, it's important to slow down every once in a while and underline and annotate wherever you find something interesting. And the importance of annotating and underlining cannot be understated. Not only does it help you recall information a bit better, but it also helps you keep key points in mind and to gain a fuller and more well-versed opinion of the book once you're done with it. And it's okay if you're not making, fully fleshed out analyses of the books that you're reading. All you need to do is, let's say, underline or circle a interesting word, or to mark some interesting paragraph which is important for the book as a whole, or it's important in that specific chapter, or maybe every now and then just adding in a few thoughts of your own about how the book is so far, or if you want to, then maybe just some light analyses as well. But all that really matters is that you're slowing down and you're trying to absorb the book the best that you can. The analogy which I like to keep in mind is that, it's like walking in a park. There's no point if you're going to rush through it. Since you're there, you might as well, stop and smell the roses every once in a while. Alright, so I've saved the best for last, and this might just be the most important tip, and that is to make a Goodreads account. Now, you don't necessarily have to make one. You can use any other alternative forms of documenting the books that you're reading, but it's really important that you do just that, because documenting your books helps you stay on track. It helps you know if you're reading as much as you should be. It helps you remember the books that you're reading and what you gain from them, and particularly in the context of Goodreads, right? Here's a few really helpful things that it helps me do. Firstly, if I'm reading a book, I can update my progress every now and then. I can add notes for the book that I'm reading so I know what my opinions are on it. And obviously, once I'm done, I can even add a review. I can give it a certain number of stars and add in my own thoughts. I can put the book on a certain shelf. So, all of my philosophy books or all of my modern fiction books can be on separate shelves. So, they're nice and organized. You can even add your friends, and, you sort of have that social pressure which makes them sort of accountability partners. And again, it helps you just read more consistently, and it helps you force your friends to read more consistently as well. Moreover, I think Goodreads has been probably the most helpful resource in helping me find new books. I'd say that essentially 60 to 70% of the books which I read are often, recommendations that I get on Goodreads, or they're books which I find on other people's Goodreads shelves, or even on, lists which have been curated by a group of people. But most importantly, in terms of reading consistently, I think that the Goodreads yearly challenge has been the best thing which I have come across, because you can just add in whatever book you're reading, so it helps you keep on track. So overall, all, it's just really, really helpful to make sure that you're reading consistently, that you don't slack off. But yeah, Goodreads definitely is something which, if you want to read consistently, you should be considering making an account on. All right, so that said, these are 5 tips which helped me become a better reader. It helped me read faster, it helped me read more consistently, and it helped me gain the most that I could from the books that I read. I hope that these tips help you guys as well. If you have any other tips, any other things which help you guys out, feel free to drop them below in the comments. If you liked my videos, a thumbs up and a subscribe would be really, really helpful. No worries if not. But yeah, I think that's about it for today, and I will see you guys next week, hopefully. And in the meantime, I hope you all stay safe, take care of yourselves, and let's meet again soon.